The question mark in the title means that this is more of a exploration questioning video rather than an assertive one where I boldly declare I believe this and this is true and you should agree with me. Although it's kind of like that. So I wanted to do a video about it was going to be titled, is there such thing as an objective quality, an objective sense of sort of like artistic quality within storytelling, right? And thinking about that, I realized, well, before doing that you sort of need to answer the question, is there such thing as objective morality? Because morality ties into aesthetics, which is the discipline where you'd answer that question. So I needed to do a video about that, but doing that, I first realized, well, if before answering whether there should be whether there's such thing as an objective morality, I should answer whether there is such thing as objective reality, right? And so that's what this is about, and I'm gonna divide this into like 3 videos, and it's gonna be pretty short, I hope. The I'm gonna admit it. I'm a noob when it comes to most stuff. Probably even philosophy. Honestly, you can tell me how stupid I am if you want. But that's not my intention. Isn't to be sort of pretentious and declare that I know what's right. I'm learning this stuff just as much as I am thinking about it and sort of claiming things, right? And to me, the answer is obviously yes, there is such thing as objective morality, but it's all predicated on your semantics and what that actually means. But I mean, okay, let's just break down human interaction, right? Let's say I'm talking to a person. You have to agree on something in order to talk to a person. Like, in the very least, you have to agree on the language that you're speaking, right? You have to agree on English, right? If we're talking English, if you don't speak English, you're not going to understand me. Like if you can't agree on anything with them, then you literally can't communicate with them at all. If every definition you have is different, which is the equivalent of speaking a different language, right? Furthermore, you probably should agree on the laws of deductive logic and probably inductive logic, and furthermore, you probably should, I mean, it's efficient if you guys agree on scientific fact, or what you know to be scientific fact. I know different people have different sort of, knowledge of different evidence in their minds, but in general, respecting the scientific method. So, if you ask me what objective reality is, it's simple. It's the language that you're speaking, the logical language that you're using, the deductive logical language, and that includes, whether it's, what are they called? Whether it's like modal logic or predicate logic or some weird-ass Lukasiewicz axiom system that no one gives a shit about, or inductive logic you should agree on, and and just the realm of human knowledge, stuff that's written down in books, stuff that's written down, history, science, stuff that's recorded, all that stuff that can be repeated. That is objective reality, and I think we can all agree on that. But getting there is tricky, right? And this is why, okay, I'm gonna admit something. I don't like philosophy. I know it sounds weird, but I don't like philosophy, mostly because of the reputation that it has for asking esoteric questions that, in my opinion, get you nowhere, okay? Specifically with, like, metaphysics. Maybe not, like, epistemology, but if you start talking about morality and aesthetics and, a lot of people do like movie reviews, game reviews. That's technically aesthetics, right? That stuff is interesting and cool. That stuff has some basis in reality. But metaphysics? No. Well, what is metaphysics even? It's very abstract, and it's very. It leads to nowhere. It's not useful at all. At least I have yet to see use. I mean, okay, there are some kind of useful things in it, sure. But this question, for instance, there'll be people who'll be like, well, technically there's no such thing as objective reality, because blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I know. technically, and I mean, this is like, you know, asterisk and quotation marks on that technically, there is no such thing as objective reality. That's true. You know, in a metaphysical sense, it's true. There's no such thing because of Plato's cave. We're all just sitting in the cave and looking at, you know, dancing crap on the wall or whatever, right? The fire, the flames and the figurines dancing on the wall. We don't actually see Plato's true forms. And, yeah, so technically, in that sense, there is no objective reality. But let me ask you guys a practical ass question. Does it matter? Does it matter that we're looking at some silhouettes on a wall? Because if those silhouettes are all we can see and all we can ever see, and you know that probably is the case categorically, that we will only ever see silhouettes on a wall. Because even if we like escape the cave into a big like space where Plato's forms are, those forms might still be like some figures, some silhouettes of some other wall that we don't see yet, and there might be some other, like, and that cave might just lead to a bigger cave, is my point. So yeah, sure, that's true, but does it matter? How does it change anything? If the silhouettes is all we can see, then the silhouettes are essentially what is true at the time. Okay, we are constantly getting closer to Plato's forms without ever actually reaching Plato's forms because it's asymptotic. But that's good enough, right? Like, that's good enough. What is true changes with time. Truth changes with time, with the advance of science, with the advance of, you know, philosophical thinking. We are getting closer to it, right? I mean, we are getting closer to it, or at least we should be, and that's perfectly fine. And whatever science knows now, whatever, you know, imagine this circle to be the set of all human knowledge, recorded human knowledge, then that is good enough. And anything that's outside the set of human knowledge, you know, outside the circle, that just doesn't matter. And you know, scientists and researchers are slowly like expanding the borders of this set by, you know, poking little holes into it whenever they write their PhD theses. Thesi? No, never mind. So that's sort of the way I look at it. But even what they're doing, they're sort of using deduction and they're using what they know to sort of get to the next step. It's not like they're not just coming up with stuff on the spot. Anyway, my point is, it seems like there is a sense. Again, this goes back to how you define it, but we could just define objective reality as this, as the set of, you know, human knowledge, recorded human knowledge, or I guess experienced human knowledge. You know, stuff that's recorded for sure, but also things like logic. You know, you know what I mean. I mean, if I say something like, you know, Earth's gravity pulls rocks to the ground, no one's going to dispute that claim. Like, metaphysically, who's going to say, well, technically, you can't tell that because of you don't know about objective reality. No one's going to say that. That's crazy. I mean, it's true, technically, metaphysically, it's true. But it's crazy to say that, isn't it? I mean, it's completely crazy. Like, you're wasting my time. I know that, yes, technically I am a human, and there's human fallibility, and, you know, I'm looking at reality through a human filter, and I understand that. But what we've recorded as gravity should be good enough. What we know about logic and science is good enough. You know, people who aren't hallucinating and aren't schizophrenics and don't have any kind of, like, psych disorder or something, what they see with their eyes is good enough. And it's not a perfect, like, it's not a perfectly framed objective reality, but it's good enough. The borders of this set, again, everything inside it, just call it objective reality, the borders of that set are, you know, fluid. They're closed sometimes, they're open sometimes, they're, you know, they're jagged, they're disorganized, chaotic, right? And that's perfectly fine. You know, they require adjustment, and adjustment takes time. Maybe someday when we're all super intelligent, super intellectual, high learned, machine level thinking superhumans, then maybe we're going to have a perfect set of objective reality. Until then, we are approximating reality, and that is good enough. That's the way that I see it. And to dispute anything else is just sort of insane. I mean, yes, of course, like if I'm telling you about my past experiences, yes, technically those experiences, I experienced them through some kind of filter, some kind of emotional filter, and you don't know about that filter, so you can't take everything I say as objective, completely 100% objective, but that's why you don't take it as objective. You take it with a small grain of salt. It'd be like, okay, well, based on his experiences, yada 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 happened, right? And, so on and so forth. So, but those like little experiences, those are just, in the scope of the entire set of human knowledge, those are tiny little blips. They don't even matter. Again, it's like, these are like infinitesimals. Again, we're approximating reality. We're approximating reality by consensus of people who can see, hear, taste, smell, etc. properly and don't have disorders and aren't hallucinating and are smart. That's what we're approximating. We're approximating reality by consensus of those people. Even if this definition of objective doesn't suit you, you probably can't deny that this is in fact what's happening in society. That I'm pretty sure that's how everyone in general perceives reality. So long as you're not hallucinating, you're not crazy, you're not etc., then what you say is true, and so long as it's not like a moral thing or whatever, then what you say about the world is true, especially if you're, say a scientist. So, again, however you define objective, it doesn't even matter to me. This is why I feel metaphysics is often just a very annoying semantics argument about, well, what does that word mean? Define your terms. Okay, I get it, guys. This is a lot of work that I'll get nothing from. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, objective doesn't, like, technically that is subjective because it's relative to the opinions of people who aren't crazy, aren't insane, aren't hallucinating, aren't stupid, and they're agreeing by consensus. So it's subjective relative to them. Okay, fine. But then the reason I like to define that as objective is because if that is still subjective, then the word objective has literally no use in any conversation ever. Right? If objective only refers to the truest, true, 100% truth of Plato's forms, then that objectivity has no use in any practical conversation ever, because you are never going to be talking about Plato's true forms. Never. Like, not explicitly. Only like in this abstract metaphysical fucking fantasy world are you going to be talking about Plato's forms. Never are we going to directly, like if we're talking about physics or we're talking about math or anything, any practical thing, we are never going to be talking about Plato's forms. But if objective only refers to Plato's forms, we can't use the word objective when talking about math and physics and all that stuff. And you see the problem, because I think the word objective is very useful. Because it's sort of it's a reference point, it's an origin that we always want to sort of compare things to it. We want to put things into that objective category. Once things are objective, once they are agreed upon by consensus of intelligent, non-crazy individuals, then that has validity, that is useful, that is practical, and by all means, that is the issue here. And whenever I use the word objective, anytime I think people should just use the word objective like this, what it means is this, agreed upon by intelligent, non-crazy, yada yada yada, as I said. Very, very practical definition. None of this Plato's form crap. I knew a person was so obsessed with Plato's forms. It's like, she was like, oh my god, you have Plato's forms, but I'm like, okay, well, who cares about Plato's forms? And she's like, well, but what about, we got to learn Plato's forms, and what if we do? And it's like, well, we won't, because there's still going to be like another cave. And she's like, yes, but I still want to learn those forms. It's like, okay, whatever. It's just weird. It's weird how some people have this like obsession with metaphysics. I don't get it. But I just, before I finish this off, again, this is gonna be a really short video. I wanted to, I want to mention a little anecdote in my own life where this objective reality debate, like the Plato's Forms thing I just mentioned was stupid, but a real like annoying ass debate with this objective reality thing. So there was a guy, this little this ginger guy who likes to talk about philosophy every once in a while because he's like trying to avoid doing work. So he starts talking about stuff, and he starts talking about the soul, and so he was saying he was saying he doesn't believe in the soul. He believes consciousness is just, matter. But he was talking about, he was sort of defending the people that do believe that there is a soul, and I was just like, okay. My stance on that is, I actually agree with Molyneux on this. There is no soul, or whatever that means. There is only matter, and whatever consciousness is a materialistic thing. Why? Because, again, we're interpreting it through the sphere of human knowledge, where, non-crazy, non-hallucinating, intelligent neuroscientists, individuals agree that it's all just the brain. That's the only thing we have to work with. Whether there's something else is unknown, probably unknowable, at least because knowing things that aren't materialistic doesn't really make much sense. And number three, not even well defined, because I've yet to see someone, like, try to define something that is real, something that is really, like, tangibly real, that isn't materialistic, that isn't made of things. It sounds stupid, like, I break it down. Materialistic means that something is made of things, but a soul isn't made of things. Oh, so what is it made out of? It's made of nothing. It's just like, what? What is it made out of? It's not made of stuff. It's not made of things or stuff. What is it made out of? It's just, oh god, these people. Again, I'm not saying that there's like, sure, like at best, the soul is also made of like materials, whether they be like particles or something, that are in some other universe, and once we die, we go to that other universe. That is the only way that a soul can ever work. Okay? Because what people talk about how is like, oh, there's this like intangible, dualistic, immaterial, incorporeal thing. It's like, well, what are you even talking about? That's not even well defined. What is that? What is incorporeal? This is metaphysics, man. It's crazy. So yeah, we got into a huge argument. It basically ended up with me saying, if it's not inside the set of human knowledge, you can't really talk about it. And he was upset that I was saying it's wrong to talk to say, the human consciousness can be immaterial, and I was saying that's wrong, and he says, well, it's wrong to say that that's wrong, and I'm like, well, you're talking about things outside the set, and talking about things outside the set is wrong. Ergo, it is wrong to say, whatever it is that he said. It is wrong to say. It's not to say that it's incorrect, that it is false, or that it's true. Okay? Yeah, true-false is a probability measure, so, it's not even, it doesn't have 0% truth or 100% truth or anything in between. It's not even on the scale. It is undefined. Right? It's undefined. Again, define something, define immaterial for me. Okay? Define something that has a basis in reality that is immaterial. Again, I don't want to get into this discussion, because I think it's just, it's semantics and it's people grasping at straws. But it's not defined. Stuff outside the set, not defined. Stuff that's outside the set of human knowledge and not touching the set, not defined. Things that are touching the set, those things are well defined. That's the difference. And if something's touching the set of human knowledge, something's tangent to it and it's well defined, like if someone's doing research, some theoretical research in like cosmology or whatever, and they come up with some new idea, well, again, what they're doing is they're doing a deductive thing. I mean, no idea how researching cosmology actually works, but they're doing a deductive thing. So what they do is actually well defined because they can define it. Okay, we're talking, like when you talk about God and stuff and soul, you're talking about stuff that's outside the set, like very far outside the set. You don't even know how far outside the set it is, actually, because you can't even define it at all. That's the main issue. And what I said is it's wrong to talk about things that are outside the set. Ergo, saying it's possible that human consciousness is not just materialistic is incorrect. It's not incorrect. It's wrong to say that. Wrong. It doesn't make any sense. It's mathematically just stupid because all you know about this idea of immaterial, incorporeal things is that they are not well defined. And consciousness, the soul, is not well defined. That's the only thing you know about it, is that it's not well defined. So the only sentence that you can ever construct with that is, this is not well defined. Subject A is not well defined. That's all you can say about it. If subject A is not well defined, you can't say subject A is possible, impossible, knowable, unknowable. Nothing else applies. Okay? Subject A, not well defined. End of fucking story. In the terms of a practical conversation about this stuff. That was a bit of a rant. Wow. Sorry about that. I try not to be too negative in these videos, but yeah. So yeah, you get the idea. So objective reality, this round set that locally and very small, the edge of this set is very chaotic, it's very uncertain, uneven, open, closed. And talking about stuff outside the set that is not tangent to the set is a no-no. You cannot do this. All you know about stuff outside the set is that it's not well defined. Again. Again, I know if you're someone who's like well-read in philosophy or who studied philosophy well enough, you might try to poke holes in my reasoning and be like, well, how do you define your terms here? And how do you do this? Yeah, sure, whatever. I'm fine with that. I just think that at the end of the day, I'm not that far from, the truth. Or in this case, this is more of a normative claim, really. But I think I'm that far from a proper, rational, and reasonable way of looking at these ideas. Anyway, this one's going to be shorter than the morality and quality videos because this one's honestly the stupidest one. I think we can all agree there has to be some notion of objective truth for people to be able to discuss anything. There has to be some notion of objective truth. There has to be some notion of agreed upon truth. And if it's agreed upon truth, then we can consider it objective truth, assuming it's agreed upon by, smart people and stuff. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching. Cheers.